Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott. You are in the Prog Corner, or perhaps I should say, you're in Masterpiece Theater. I'm wearing my Picasso shirt today because it seems appropriate when talking about an album of this caliber. Yeah, every 3 to 4 years, there's a record that comes out that just really rings my bell, that just is everything that I'm looking for from a prog rock album. And boys and girls, I think I found it here today. It's the Chronicles of Father Robin. This band has been 30 years in the making. That's quite a long gestation period, if you ask me. But along the way, they picked up enough material to drop a 3-album box set as your debut. That's ridiculous. Who does that? Well, first of all, who is the Chronicles of Father Robin? Why am I so excited about this release? Well, it's led by the great Andres Wetterman, Stroman Prestmo, the lead singer from Wobbler. He is joined by Henrik Harmer on drums and John Andre Nielsen. Those were the 3 main guys that got together 30 years ago in a Norwegian folk high school. How cool is that? We don't have folk high schools here. After they started working on some stuff, they were joined by a couple other members, Thomas Hagen Coldhall on guitar. He was from the Samuel Jackson trio. Regin Meyer on flutes. He was from Tusmørke. Yeah, he was. And they've got Alexandra Morozova on voice. She's a folk singer. It's so cool because Andres has such a high voice. To hear somebody actually sing higher than him in the vocal harmonies is a real treat. They are joined by Lars Fredrik Frosley from Wobbler on keys. The great Krista Malmrak from Tusmørke, just craziness that he adds. Hagen Optung from Jordsjø, and there's a guest singer on The Death of the Fair Maiden. Ingjerd Moy sings on that. But yeah, it's mainly the 5 guys in the band, but they've been trying to do this thing for 30 years. They finally dropped a 12-inch in when was it? 2013, they dropped a 12-inch at Twilight Fields. But yeah, they'd been working on this record forever. And, I can't wait another 30 years for a second album. So let's hope there's a little quicker follow-up on that. So we've got the 3-album box set that is out now. It was crowdfunded by the boys in the band. It's being released on their own imprint, Old Oak Records. But September 14th, I believe, is the release date. Charisma is going to release each of the 3 albums in this box set individually, starting with book 1. So I'm really excited about that. So there's 3 books here. You got book 1, The Tale of Father Robin, subtitled The State of Nature. Book 2 is Ocean Traveler, subtitled Metamorphosis. And then you've got the 3rd book, Magic Chronicles, with the parenthetical title Ascension. But I'm going to start with book 1, obviously. This is the one that's, going to be able to get in people's hands a lot quicker. So this is the one of most interest. It starts with The Tale of Father Robin, which is like a little sea shanty. Kind of reminds me of just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. Yeah, it sounds like some dude, some wandering minstrel just walked into a old Renaissance tavern, started telling a tale. And it's got guitar and harpsichord. It's really cool. This is Andre singing, but it doesn't sound like him at all. I actually had to email him. I'm like, dude, who sang on that Tale of Father Robin song? It is him. It sounds like Richard Sinclair or something. He sounds like a proper British gentleman here. Really cool. And then after 1 minute and 16 seconds, it ends with a Picardy third. And then you get into the main part of the song. The main part of the first big epic here. Yeah, it's Elysian Forest. This was just dropped last week, Friday, as a single. So I'm going to put in the descriptions a link to that so you can check out the first epic. It's a 12-minute song. It's absolutely crazy. It starts right off the gates, kind of like By the Banks off of Wobbler's latest album, Dwellers of the Deep, where it just doesn't take any time at all. It just starts going right away. And you've got the octave riff. Anytime you've got a riff with an octave, I'm probably going to be pricking up my ears like My Sharona or Immigrant Song. I love octave riffs. You got a real busy organ, Hammond going on at the beginning of this song. I'm guessing that's probably Lars making his presence felt there. And then it comes down a little bit with the mellotron and the flute. And you've got Andre singing with this falsetto voice. And then it goes into a real rockin' chorus that comes back quite a few times. They get real playful with guitar harmonics and bongos and stuff like that throughout here. At 4:45, there's a real cool turnaround section with ahs and oohs that sounds just like Yes. One of the few places on this album that is reminiscent of Yes, whereas Wobbler gets criticized a whole bunch for being really Yes-like. I don't hear it here a whole lot, and a big reason why is the flute that's all over this album. You've got a little proggy interludes that come in and out on this song, and then you got like a Led Zeppelin sounding riff. There's so much stuff going on here. The quiet section right before the end, where the great Alexandra and Andreas's voices intermingle so beautifully. And then you got like this really cool stop and start frenzied section, and the main theme comes back, and the Hammond organ's playing, then just kind of fades out. I'm not gonna go through like a detailed rundown of all these songs. I'd be here for an hour. But next up is the 8-minute long Death of the Fair Maiden. This is such a great track. Andreas's lyrics here sound very Elizabethan. I mean, English is a second language for this guy, but for him to be able to not only create this amazing story in English, but also give out voicings from other time periods, really impressive. O Father Moon, hast thou seen my fair love? She hath been gone since yesternight. Tell unto her, if you meet my fairest one, that I am in search of her. That's great lyric writing, and English isn't even his first language, just amazing. So you got that Renaissance feel throughout this track, and then you get into a weird 15/8 section that's indebted to Uriah Heep, I think. And then towards the end, you get this I've had too much to dream section that sounds like the Electric Prunes. There's a whole lot of psych here. There's a lot of folk elements on this record. But just amazing. Next up is the epic, the long one. It's a 15-minute track called Twilight Fields. This was released on 12-inch, 10 years ago. It's a little different version. I've heard, a few different changes that they made on this, but it's basically the same track. So if you know that, you already know how great it is. This is all groove and Andreas's voice here. It does kind of sound like Wobbler at some points here, but when that flute starts going with the real cool distorted guitar, I'm feeling more Italian prog. I'm hearing maybe like Delirium or Biglietto per l'Inferno here. Just awesome. And then you get like some post-punk guitar chops here, a la XTC or Gang of Four. Just really cool. And then it gets into like an early King Crimson section later on. I just love this track. It's 15 minutes long. Definitely one of my favorites on the album. And then book one ends with the 8.5-minute long song Unicorn, and it kind of reminds me of Jordsjø in the intro with the guitar and the flute. Everything's real understated with the bass and the drums, and then as the song goes on, you start getting more of that post-punk like urgency. There's a real frenetic feel to it. And then when Andreas's voice comes in, it's just magic, man. And then book one is done, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. If this was the album they were presenting us, I would be so happy, and I'd be giving it 5 headphones. Who am I kidding? Book 2 starts out, Ocean Traveler Metamorphosis. Book 2 starts out with a song called Over West Winds. This is only 4 minutes long. Very celestial voices, making me think a whole bunch of Fleet Foxes, if you can believe that. Next up is a song called Arias in the Underwater City. It's 8.5 minutes long. I love this track. It starts out almost like Ultravox with a lot of the synths from the late 70s, early 80s, and then it gets into this really cool groove that sounds like orchestral maneuvers in the dark, maybe Enola Gay. You get a real slinky bass line and an Eastern feel on the keyboard. All the while you've got this programmed drum that sounds like the bossa nova setting on an old Casio. It's just great, just amazing. And it leads into my favorite song on the album, Ocean Traveler. 6.5 minutes of pure greatness. It starts out with 7 notes, and you don't know what time signature you're in. but then you realize real quick you're in waltz time, which is really nice. And then as the song picks up, it gets into a 5/4 herky-jerky kind of section, goes back into that waltz, and then it comes back to the 5/4 section, and then you get the real, just the money shot of this whole album when the bass line starts going. First it goes ascending, then it goes descending, and then Andres is singing ocean traveler, ocean traveler, ocean traveler, travel. Oh, it's so good, man. It's the album's highlight. I just absolutely love it. Next up is Lady of Waves, 5.5-minute song. It's really cool. It starts out like a Chronicles of Father Robin song, but by the end, it's almost like a Southern rock song. And the way Andres pronounces kindred is really cool. He pronounces it in 3 syllables, kindred. It's charming. It's fantastic. And if that's not enough, man, the next song is Green Refreshment, 7:09. Yeah, this sounds like Anecdote and maybe a little bit like King Crimson. The boys in this band have said that, third wave Scandinavian Prog was a big influence for him. Anecdote and Anglagard, Landberg, all those bands. It's a great, great tune. You got the flute playing over the top of it. It goes, the chord progression is like a E to an F. So you're in Phrygian, right? You're only going up that half step, but the flute's playing a melodic minor over the top of it, which means you've got this bunched up. You've got the sharp 7, you got the tonic, and you got the flat 2, all going on at the same sonic territory. The real estate gets real crowded, and it sounds just great. So many riffs on this song, man. Just nonstop, one riff after another. It's just amazing. And then Book 2 closes with the Grand Reef, and it does kind of sound like a Jethro Tull sea shanty. You got Hammond stabs, and the Moog comes in a little bit, and the vocals are talking about, the human sacrifice. Father Robin has landed on some island with these natives, and they're going to throw him into the pit, into the rim of a volcano, which you've got all these false stops on this song. Throw him in the volcano, then the song stops, and then it comes back, and then they're talking some more. They grab hold of him, and then they throw him in. Then the song stops again, so you have all these different false endings. It's really, really great. And then finally he gets thrown into the volcano, and the music just slowly for like 2 minutes just builds up. And then slowly, I guess, a tower of rock and coral rises, and Father Robin rises above it all, and then you've got this real nice buildup, and of course another false ending along the way, and Book 2 is done. And once again, man, if this was the album, just those 6 songs on Book 2, I'd be giving it 5 headphones. It's absolutely perfect. Next up, we get to Book 3, Magic Chronicles, Ascension, and the album here, I didn't know earlier, is bookended by a prologue and an epilogue, which is basically just 1 minute of ocean sounds that begins Book 1 and ends Book 3. So we've only got like 5 proper songs on Book 3, and it starts with the Magic Chronicles, 6 minutes of just pure, gentle, giant, frenzied craziness. I absolutely love it. You got the intricate vocal harmonies, you got the quirky guitar elements, you got the hocketing, the kind of round stuff that they do. Everything Gentle Giant did, the Chronicles of Father Robin's doing on this track, and they're doing it great. Next up is a weird song called Sky Slumber. It's 7.5 minutes. It takes 2 minutes to get going. Then finally, when it does, it's kind of like a soft rock song. Maybe even a little bit of Canterbury influence here on this track. And then it ends with this spacey section that it began with. I really didn't like this song the first 5 or 6 times through. This was the one sticking point on the album that I had. But listening through it again over the weekend, Sky Slumber is a great track, and it really needs to be there. Next up is a song that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about. It's the 7-minute long song called Cloud Ship. And yeah, it sounds a whole lot like if Steve Howe had been on Elias of Sun Hillow with John Anderson. It's that kind of track. It's peaceful, it's mellow, it's beautiful. The vocal melodies are just out of this world. And to tie in the whole John Anderson, Steve Howe thing, at the end of the track, Andreas starts naming off all these words for the sun, just like Yes did on Tales from Topographic Oceans during the Ancient. now we start getting towards the end, and you can feel the momentum building. And the penultimate song is Empress of the Sun. It's only 5 minutes long. It's really fun. It's crazy. It's zany. It's got a psych tinge to it, kind of like Tusmørke for sure. But then the guitar is playing this cool riff that sounds like a violin. First 2 or 3 times I listened to it, I thought it was a violin. I'm going through the credits. There's no violin on this album, man. That's a treated guitar that somehow they got to sound that way. Really weird, lazy passing tones on here. Sometimes it's all the instruments go to the passing tones. Sometimes it's just the organ. And the laziness of that is a little weird to me. But there's a really cool middle section here that sounds a lot like The Doors. And then it comes back with the Tusmørke-like craziness to end the song. And then finally, the last song on the album, last proper song, we got the epilogue after this, which really doesn't count, is called Lost in the Palace Gardens. And this thing is just what a great way to end this album, man. It's like picking and grinning on your front porch with a guitar and a mandolin, and you're just playing in the key of D major and just having yourself a good old time. The mandolin and the guitar and Andreas's voice just sounding great. And then finally you get a chorus that comes in about a bright white sister. And then the song picks up a little bit, but it bludgeons you with D and E over and over, D major, E major, and we're in 6/8 time here. Actually, I think we're more like in 3/8 time. Let's call it 3/4 if you like. Whatever, you're in some kind of 3. So when you're going back and forth between the D and the E, you're doing it on dotted quarter notes. So you're playing around with bits of 2 and bits of 3. So there's a lot of rhythmic, playfulness throughout this track. It's like 5 minutes of these 2 chords just beating you over the head, and it's just amazing as Andreas sings lyrics like this: the dust of dawn, the giant serpent spawn, the spark that lights the sun, the right that must be done, the water from the well, the ghost within the shell, the flowing of the leaves, the deed beyond beliefs, when opposites enthrall, a call that summons all, like a starry night, I become once again. That's good songwriting right there, man. Really, really good. And then it ends with the epilogue, which is just a minute of ocean noise. And honestly, boys and girls, my only complaint about this album is that it's too short, man. Book 3 is only like 33 minutes long. So, it's kind of ironic that the only complaint I have about an album that's 2 hours long, 18 songs, cut across 3 albums, is that it's not long enough. I need one more song on book 3. There was a B-side to Twilight Fields when that came out 10 years ago. I'm wondering why that didn't make the cut, because book 3 is definitely shorter than book 1 or 2. So I don't know if I'd score it a 5 as a standalone, but these guys stuck to their guns, man. They could have easily have said, hey, look at the stopwatch and say, let's be a slave to it. And they did not. Instead, they were a slave to their muse and came up with what I consider probably the greatest album of the year so far. I will be ranking my best albums of 2023 so far probably tomorrow, so it'll be very interesting if the Chronicles of Father Robin makes the cut here. I never even said the actual name of this entire thing. It's called The Songs and Tales of Airoea, which is the land that Father Robin washes ashore upon, and all these different adventures that he gets into. Apparently, Father Robin is an amalgamation of all the different band members and all the different journeys and travels and travails and all the different stuff he encounters along the way during his journeys are basically just things that happen to the members of the band, and they just put that into the story. So Father Robin is an amalgamation of all the members of the band. The question now becomes, where do you go from here? I said at the onset, we can't wait another 30 years for a follow-up. But, how do you go on with this story? The name of your band is the Chronicles of Father Robin, so I guess you're kind of stuck with this story. But I'm okay with that, man. I want to see where it goes next. Father Robin can come back and wash upon another foreign shore and have more travels. But just don't wait another 30 years to tell that story, guys. Anyway, I love you guys. I'm so excited about this project. 30 years in the making and absolutely worth every single minute of the wait. It's just fantastic. I know it's a little expensive. I think the box set is like 150 euros if you order. I will put a link to their website in the description. It is worth every penny. You know, you can wait until Charisma releases them one at a time, but I'm telling you, that's not the way to do it. Save up your money, boys and girls, and buy this box set. It's what I'm doing. I got a birthday coming in a couple months, so hopefully the boys in the band will save me one of those box sets so that my wife can buy it for me. Anyway, I love you guys. Peace in the Middle East. God save the king. And Prince Harry, too. He needs all the help he can get. I'm out.